Hey guys, I'm out on the Sandy River with guide Jack Glass. He donated a trip at the NSIA Winter Social, and we've got a couple people here fishing with us. And so what are we doing right now, Jack?
Well, we're doing the technique known as bobber dogging, drifting in the boat, casting to the side, and let the bobbers drag the gear down the river. The gear is 6 to 8, 10 feet behind the bobber. It's a nice presentation with it's a good way to float down the river. It doesn't snag up very much. It keeps you fishing in the strike zone all the time, and it's a great way to fish. It's a visual thing. You see the bobber go away, you set the hook, and very engaging. So a lot of people enjoy this technique.
So this trip was a donation, though. You donated the trip through NSIA.
Yeah. Well, I had the opportunity to fish with Buzz. I try and fish with Buzz anytime I can. So we have fished together a number of times over the years, and to meet Rachel and Dan, they're great people, and they do a lot of fishing. And you can tell when they get in the boat, they got the right kind of gear on. You know that they fish. So they were dressed for the weather this morning when it was raining early.
Yeah. So we will be speaking with them really quick here. This is their first appearance. How are you?
Oh, doing good.
Good. How are you doing?
Good.
Good. All right. Well, we made a few passes. Got some great water. I mean, literally everywhere we stop, it's like, oh my gosh, right here, it's gonna happen.
I use this longer bobber because it kind of shows me what the attitude is. If it's laying there right, I can tell it's not tangled up. Laying flat on side, there's something wrong, or it disappears real and jerk. I'll give you a quick rundown of what we're using. We're using a 9/8 Lamaglass SI rod. These are really nice. They're lightweight. They cast very well. You can get some good distance on this. An Okuma reel, and I've got some Maxima 40-pound braided line. Good and strong. It floats well. Makes it nice when we're using a float. Attached to the line, we've got a bead on here. Let me bring this down first to the bobber. We have a bobber dog and bobber. It's a medium-sized one. I tied to a regular snap swivel to Dave's tangle-free weight. We're using 3/8 today because it's fairly shallow water. I often use a 1/2 ounce, but today we're using 3/8. Then I got Maxima 12-pound ultra green line tied to one of these brand new Gamakatsu bead hook. I saw these at the Portland Sportsman Show, and I thought, this is really neat. They look good. They got a nice angle on them. The Gamakatsu bead hook. The finish is real nice, and they're super sharp, really sharp. We've had really high success of landing our fish with these things. I'm using a size 20 B&R bead. Now, there's all sizes of these beads. For years, I've always used 10, 12s, 16s. This year, I started out with a size 20 bead. These two colors are it. These are the only colors I'm using, and it catches them. They like this thing. With B&R, they've got the nice T bead that holds the bobber in position or holds the bead in place. And because I'm using a size 20, I'm using a 1/0 hook. That's something new I changed. Instead of a smaller hook, I'm using a 1/0 of this bead hook. And other guys, remember, we all learn from each other. I had a friend of mine in Seattle market, and he started, we typically always fished them 3-4 fingers away from the hook, and it catches them. But we kept losing fish a lot. He said, Jack, use a little bigger hook and slide it down a little bit closer to the bead. You know, kind of like we always did with Okie drifters, you know, for years. Although it'd be right on the hook. He said, leave about a finger. Nice and close like that, you'll have a better success, especially with that 1/0 hook. So we're gonna give it a try today, and we'll see what we can do with these. Done any good?
Well, so far, no fish landed for us.
None landed. We've had some opportunities.
I think we had some bobber downs that should have been fish, but water's been coloring up. I think it's rising a little bit, but I don't know.
Looks good. I like having a little bit of color in this thing. Yeah.
I love that part of it. Just, I don't know.
Yeah. We've had a couple bobber downs that felt good, but we didn't get them. No sticky at all. They were good. I wouldn't hit your boat.
When I first came up here this morning, there was a couple fish that rolled right here, but they didn't bite.
Wow. Good temperature today, 42.8, so they should bite. We're gonna go up. All right, Paul got one wild one down below. That's about all I've seen down there. All right, good luck.
We've been fishing away this morning using beads, and Buzz, what you were using your
I was using a gooey bob.
So we've got Danny and Rachel here, and Danny made a donation for this trip through NSIA. So what got you into fishing, and why did you decide to make a donation?
You know, I got into fishing when I was pretty young. I was probably 5 years old. My dad kind of started taking us out to the ponds and plinking around, and just kind of got the bug. And then I really got the bug when I got to go up to Alaska, you know, and that's really when I started getting to really enjoy fishing and catching, you know, salmon and steelhead. I was excited because working at G.I. Joe's back in the day, used to see Jack and Buzz's pictures on the bill, you know, on the posters and stuff, and for an opportunity to fish with, you know, those two was really just, you know, for me it was, I always told myself one of these days, you know, I'm going to be somewhere where I can fish with those guys, and it was that opportunity came up, and I was excited to do it.
So now you got Rachel here. Is she your fishing buddy? Does she go on all the trips, or?
I go on some of the trips with that, but he goes by himself. But I got to come on this one, so I felt lucky that he included me.
Yeah, this is a special trip because we got Buzz, and then Jack is back there switching it up to some plugs.
We're gonna plug fish for a little bit.
So we're gonna keep fishing away, and then we'll talk to Buzz here in a little while about doing some white fishing a little bit closer to his home.
Well, you know, it's been kind of slow for us this morning. We've had a couple pull downs, but nothing really stuck. And the temperature's good, so I don't know if they were steelhead or a bottom fish or something, but the bite's been a little slow. So we're gonna try something different. We're gonna back troll with some plugs and diver and bait. One of the diver and bait combos I like for steelhead fishing is a spin glow, corky, and a coon shrimp. I like the loony coonies. I use a lot of those. They work really, really well for spring chinook and steelhead, and summer chinook. Everything bites that doggone thing, even trout. So we're gonna put that in there, see what happens. We got it on a diver, and the diver will pull this down on the bottom. And then, so we'll have diver and bait and plugs. I'll show you the plugs here we're gonna run. So I got a 3.0 mag lip, and this is a really good one for steelhead. I did change the hook. This is one of the earlier models. They got some really good hooks on them now, but earlier they were a little weak on the hook. I thought you get one or two fish and the hook wouldn't be any good anymore after that. So I did put a different hook on here. I've done it a little differently. I even cut, because it is a heavier hook, I cut one of the legs off of it, one of the part of the hook of the treble, just to lighten the load a little bit, but it still allows it to kick down and dives really well. And of course, Buzz developed this thing, and mag lips have been hugely popular ever since this product line has come around. So he's done a great deal with it, and we're going to stick it in the water and see what we can do with it.
And Jack forgot to mention, we're going for number 113 right now. And, maybe we should just go to 114 and skip one.
Let's go. Yeah, we're looking for fish 113 that we've hooked. Fish this season in 26 trips. We've hooked a bunch of them, and it was slow for us so far today. So I'm optimistic. I got some good anglers here today, and I know we're going to be able to find something out there. Any luck yet? No. We got the back troll rod, and I got ready to go, and a drip boat pulled into the gauge and anchor. So we're going to go down below you here in the duck hole.
Pulled some plugs, and we're back to the bead fishing. The guys over here on the bank have actually caught a few fish so far, so hopefully we can pick something up. Right now we're casting over along this cut bank. There's a nice slot right along the edge over there.
Real bottom. Down slow. Nice drift here. Come on. Come on.
So I know there's whitefish in the Sandy River, and I think most every Columbia River tributary has whitefish in it. The Deschutes especially has got a huge population of whitefish. We live up on the Klickitat River in Washington, and of course there's a big whitefish population in there. And the Klickitat closes the end of November for steelhead, which are summer steelhead, of course. And then it opens December 1st for whitefish, from December 1st to the end of February. So I've got a couple weeks left, 10 days left to the season. And I've been out chasing these whitefish. I mean, I've been down the coast. I've caught a dozen winter steelhead so far down there, in the Tillamook area. But I've been focusing on whitefish a little more this year. I've done it over the years here and there. And I remember when our boys were young, we'd go down behind the house on the Klickitat and catch whitefish. But this year I've really been doing it. It's a lot of fun. I've been drifting the river. I mean, I bet I've caught, 20 of them or more in the hole behind the house. It just seems like they're everywhere. And I've drifted the river a few times. And once in a while you catch a steelhead incidental to the whitefish. In Washington State, the statewide rule is if you're targeting whitefish, some of these river systems, like the Klickitat, are closed for steelhead. If you're targeting whitefish, of course there's a few steelhead in there. I think I've got 3 of them this year, incidental to the whitefishing. But they have a hook restriction. So our hook, the point to shank on your hook, has to be at or less than 3/16 of an inch. And we're using a little fly tipped with a maggot or maybe a little power bait wiggler, a white one, and just cast out and drift fish it. We're doing that, and we're also fishing them under a bobber, with a bobber and a sinker, and letting it drift through the runs. And the whitefish move around quite a bit, but they're not as big and glamorous as salmon and steelhead, but they're from here, that'd be a small one I'd probably release, up to maybe 17, 18 inches. Once in a while you get one bigger. Haven't caught one that big this year, but they're fun fish and they're really good eating. A lot of people, they kind of get a bad rap because some people say, hey, they're bony, nah. That's not true. Their skeletal structure is exactly like a rainbow trout. And they got you fillet the sides off, and they got one little row of lateral bones, and they're yummy eating. We've been having meals pretty regular with them, and they're really good. So if you ever get a chance, maybe try the whitefish thing.
Hey Buzz, so what are you fishing with right now?
I'm bobber dogging just like everyone, but I've got I found an old gooey bob, original gooey bob. I got that on there instead of actually looks like the old Okie drifter. And I caught one on it the other day down on the coast, down on the Wilson. So when I was during those years at Lure Jensen, we made, of course, Okie drifters. They were a buoyant drift bobber for drift fishing. And then we also made soft eggs, a gooey bob, which looked like an Okie, had the bumps on it. And then we had Jensen eggs, which were round, soft vinyl eggs.
Well, hey everybody, thanks for watching. It was a little slow today. It's actually been a really good year though. I don't know how many fish you've hooked, 112, I know 113.
Well, we were looking for 113 today, so, but yeah, it was slow today. It was called fishing today, and that does happen, you know. I had some really good anglers today. I felt like I was fishing. It is called fishing sometimes. So anyway, we tried hard. We had good weather. It turned out okay, and we gave it our best shot. That's all you can do every day.
One thing that might have hurt us today is the water was, although the water was great color, looked great, everything, but the water's rising.
Yeah.
We've had rain. It's probably melted some snow in the mountains, or at least mid-elevation, and that river was rising. And sometimes when the river's rising like that, it just, the fish that are there maybe are moving, and you know, they bite better when they're holding, quite frankly. And so that may have hurt us today, but we gave it a big shot, and next time.
Yep, next time.
And I also want to thank Danny and Rachel because they made the donation to NSIA.
No,
And,
thank you guys for having us. It was great.
This trip wouldn't happen without that, and it also wouldn't have happened without Jack. So Jack is the one that
We all contributed, so we did the best we could, and it's fishing, you know. So it was a good time.
All right, we'll see you guys next time. Don't forget to subscribe and to subscribe to the magazine at salmontroutsteelheader.com, and we will see you next time.
What works for whitefish, at least you know, on the Klickitat, and that's the only place I've ever really fished whitefish or targeted them, but is a fly, just a brown or black fly. And up there, I put a little bigger one on today because I tried a few casts for whitefish on the Sandy today, no luck. But up there, you've got to have no more than 3/16 of an inch from point to shank on your hook. So here I stepped up one size bigger because there's not a hook restriction here on the Sandy. And I tip it with either a real maggot, in which case you pierce that hook point right between their eyes on a real maggot. But this is a little Berkeley wiggler, they call it. It's a little power bait wiggler. So it's got the power bait scent in there. And that's basically what I use. And I have this, usually my dropper off here for my fly is only about 6-8 inches long. I got this one a little longer. Sometimes I start a little longer because that way if I break off, I can still retie on it. And then I've got a length down to my sinker. And I'm just drift fishing with this. And I'm using one of the old Bouncin' Betty sinkers on here, but you could use a little slinky sinker or pencil weight or whatever. And of course I'm just drift fishing this. So I'm casting out, across, and upstream. I'm picking up my slack line and I'm following my drift with just enough weight on there so it'll bounce along the bottom, just often enough so that you know you're there. Follow your drift along with your rod tip and you'll feel them peck at it. Actually, the bite is, in some cases, more than you get out of a steelhead. But if you feel them, set the hook and get them. And I've had many times when I've hooked I'll hook one every cast, 2 or 3 casts, I'll hook 2 or 3 fish, So anyway, that's what I'm using. The other thing you can do is you can just use a little float with a sinker below it. And I usually have the float fixed on my line, but movable. And I'll have a leader below my sinker. I'll have a leader maybe, I don't know, 20 inches long or whatever, and I'll have a fly on the end of that, and I'll just adjust that based on water depth and just cast it upstream and follow your drift along with your watching your bobber. And if your bobber goes down, set the hook, just like steelhead fishing. And you can adjust, like I say, that bobber. The bobber works the best for fishing current edges, or slack water, slow water, or current edges, just like for steelhead. A lot of those whitefish will hang out in those areas, and that's where the bobber really works.